Hello. Welcome to the 2025 BCTV annual meeting. I'm Garrett Harkowick, the current board president. When I had the opportunity to become board president last year, I did so without hesitation because I knew from my time on the board that this is an exceptionally well-run, well-staffed organization, and that I could now take credit for that without having to do very much work. And that has been the case. The staff and members have continued this past year to do wonderful, important work, all while making it look fun. One huge highlight of the past year has been BCTV member Teresa Maggio's documentary Bill's Lumber, which had over a dozen screenings in southern Vermont, many of which were packed. With this film, Teresa has become a walking advertisement for us, showing that anyone with an idea can come in, learn to use a camera, and make a film that people want to come and see. Teresa used the screenings as an opportunity to raise money for us, and BCTV ended up receiving $2,211 in donations, and so I would like to thank Teresa again for that. There's a lot of uncertainty within the world of public media right now, and while I'm sure we all agree community TV is well worth fighting for, I think anyone who steps into the BCTV office can see clearly just how important this station is. It both showcases and creates a center for the community in Windham County, and that's something I hope we can all be a part of for many years to come. And with that, I will turn it over to Johnny Gifford.
Thanks, Garrett. I'm very grateful that you've taken over as board president. Alex did an amazing job as president, but it's been very nice having you in this role, for sure. So a couple pieces of housekeeping while I multitask and make my presentation go full screen. I always see people like just do keystrokes and suddenly, boom, they got the thing on the screen. I haven't figured that one out quite yet. Housekeeping, there are 2 bathrooms on this floor. If you need to use the bathroom, they're both this way on your left hand side. In the event of an emergency, there are 2 staircases, one on the end of the hall here on the left and one on the end of the hall here on your left, in case we need to get out of here in case of an emergency. So here we are to talk about BCTV's year in review, our fiscal year 25, which just wrapped up on June 30th of this year. We kind of run in the July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, but we'll sort of, work around that timeline a little bit and break the mold, so to speak, because there's so much happening that we want to highlight. First of all, let's talk about our staff. Our staff has changed only a little bit over the last year or so. I think the most notable thing is that we said goodbye to Court Trowbridge. Now, we technically said goodbye to her last year. She was the executive director for 19 years, but she stayed on as our special projects coordinator or manager as we launched a brand new website, which I talked about at length during last year's annual meeting. And she also was helping out during our final legs transitioning to HD. Our cable channels are now in HD, which by some surprise is not the norm across the state. We were the first in the state to receive HD channels. And as you can imagine, there were a lot of hiccups that came along with that. And so she stayed on with us. So we said goodbye to her in July, middle of July. So technically she still falls in this fiscal year that we're reporting on here. We also hired a couple of new folks. We had some interns like we normally do. Last year, sort of being my first year here at BCTV, I worked with the board and our staff to implement sort of a paid internship program, and we hosted 2 interns last year, Ezra and Emma, who were great, and they were with us over the course of 2 months. And then this past summer, we employed one intern named Spencer, and he came to us from the Hinsdale High School. They have an extended learning opportunity program where they get to go out into the field and experience real careers of their interest. And so he chose to do that with us. He happened upon us because he used to be at the Career Center in Brattleboro on the film track when that was still a thing. And his class came in here once just for a tour. And it really, stuck with him. And he ended up finishing out his senior year with us. And then we hired him for an internship right after. That's him in the BCTV University sweater, sort of on the left side. That's our Spencer right there. We miss him dearly. He just finished his internship with us at the end of August. We also hired Tina Rubico, who is to the left of Spencer in that photo there. And she is a relatively new Newfane resident. And she came to us with an excitement and a sort of portfolio of different media and creative work that she had done. And we sort of trained her on, well, you might have this creativity and this technical skill. Here's how you can funnel it into what BCTV does. And she's a regular producer for us covering municipal meetings and school board meetings of that sort. I don't think Jan's on here. And technically, we hired Jan during the last fiscal year, but he really has stepped up a lot this year as well. And he's even helping cover the Brattleboro Select Board meetings, our flagship municipal meeting, and one of our biggest productions that we do, at least twice a month, if not more. Did I miss anyone? I guess our camp staff I can talk a little bit about as well. We sort of shook up our camp staff this year, and it was different than, as far as I'm aware, the last 4 or 5 years, just due to schedules not working out and things of that sort with our previous counselors. First of all, we brought back Frederick Noyes, who used to be a BCTV employee, and he was also a camp staff member, even after his employment at BCTV, and we brought him back, and he was great working with the kids this summer. He really just fit right in and sort of hit the ground running. He already knew really what was going on. And then we also hired Nick Polidor as our lead counselor. He worked at Sandwich Community Television in Sandwich, Mass. for about 10 years or so. And he ran their youth video camp as well. So he was honestly the perfect fit for this, for that position. And then we brought back Charlie Keel, who is one of our junior counselors. He was also with us last year and is a former BCTV camper. And his friend Liam also came by as well. Charlie and Liam used that opportunity to acquire community service hours because they're in high school now and they need a certain amount of hours to graduate. And we are happy to be the vehicle for these up-and-coming media rock stars to get their community service hours. And then, of course, we have Tom Woodbury, our IT master, who is always working behind the scenes and making sure that, the various webs of networks in this office all work. And he's always updating our software, which is huge. So here's the board. As of sort of June 30th, again, we're talking about this arbitrary fiscal year, so to speak, but as of June 30th, our board was George Anthes is our treasurer, Lynn Barrett, Alex Beck was our former president. He was already kind of sort of out by 6:30, but he's in the photo here. Nancy Wolf as our secretary, Garrett Harkowick, who was the former vice president and took over as president. And then missing from the photo, we have Renee Walliver, who joined us back in February or March. And then our newest board member as well is here in the back, Alex Hacker, and fingers crossed, soon to be board member Seth Thomas right in the front here. So if you guys haven't all kind of met each other yet, this is a good time to do that, I think. Really excited for where the board is going with the energy that we have bringing on new board members. We're also, I didn't necessarily put this in the presentation, but we're also going through some board training and strategic planning right now. So I think between that and the new blood on the board, we have a good year shaping up for us so far. So I'm excited to see where that energy goes. So to talk about our underwriters and our production sponsors, we did better this year than we did last year. One of my points during last year's presentation was that we were kind of lagging behind on event sponsorships. We cover some things in the community pro bono, like graduations, for example, town meetings, sort of. I mean, the towns pay us for town meetings, but that's part of a annual contract. And then sometimes they can be really, really long hours, long days. It's kind of a lot of money out the window. That's really neither here nor there. The point being that we're really grateful to our underwriters who support us from year to year. In fiscal year 25, we saw an uptick in underwriters. Of course, Brattleboro Savings Loan and Brattleboro Food Co-op are our two longest underwriters as far as I'm aware. And then some of our production sponsors, Town Meeting Day, we had Edward Jones, who is returning. The Lodge at West River was a returning sponsor. 802 Credit Union was a brand new sponsor. I had just seen their name on banners supporting other events everywhere. And I figured they might be interested in what we're doing. And lo and behold, they were. We also had Members First Credit Union, the Richards Group, Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust, and Phillips Dunn, Shriver, and Carroll, who I believe were also all returning production sponsors. So we are very, very grateful for them. Our Harris Hill ski jump coverage also had more than usual. The Porch actually provided us some amazing, very yummy food for our production staff during Harris Hill ski jump, and we're very, very grateful for that. CVG was a new sponsor for Harris Hill this year. Again, we have like Brattleboro Savings and Loan and the Co-op, who are always returning sponsors. I forget which one the first one was, so it'll loop eventually. Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, I feel like maybe we're at our loop. Are we at our loop? That's our loop. You can kind of see where it like loops, you know. But thank you to all of them. Again, the porch, I don't know where we would have been without them at that ski jump. They really helped us out. And I know our volunteers got to eat some of the soups and the salads when they came in from the cold. It was very, very nice. Graduation from Artisan Designs always supports us for graduation. McDonald's of Brattleboro, I don't know how Core landed that one, but that's a good one. And they continue to support us. Again, the co-op and Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Brattleboro Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram was a new sponsor this year as well. BAPC and West River Valley Thrives was a returning sponsor. Of course, we have Brattleboro Savings and Loan and 802 Credit Union. They went all in. They sponsored everything I asked them to sponsor, which was really great. So those are that's sort of a overview of sort of some of our production sponsors this year, to whom we are very grateful for supporting community media, so we can do what we do without worrying about the financial burden of it. So let's recognize some of our staff. I mentioned our two interns, Emma and Ezra. That's Emma on the left and Ezra on the right. They were really integral parts of our staff while they were here, and they are missed for sure, but we still catch them around in the community, all the time, and they'll come back from time to time. So we're grateful to have that sort of relationship with our interns where they come back and they feel like they're right at home again. I'd also like to give a recognition to Alex Beck, who is our departing board president, who was in that role for, I don't know how many years, at least 3 or 4 years. And he was a board member for much longer than that. And we thank him for his years of service. He's the one who hired me, and I feel like him and I had a lot of great conversations when I first came on board, and I'll miss him, even though he still supports us. Anytime I send anything like a big BCTV related email to the whole membership, he's always he's responding back, rooting for us. So it's always really nice to hear from him. And we hope he's doing well in his role at BDCC. We also lost a longtime BCTV board member, producer this year, Reggie Martell. He was a sort of a local staple. A lot of people in the community knew Reggie. I had met him on a handful of occasions. The first time I met him was at Hairsail Ski Jump in 2024. And he kind of had a rough go at it because of the way that things were set up in the crow's nest where we're filming the skiers coming down. And he was like getting a little dizzy because of the way it was all set up. And so the first time I met him was not under the best circumstances, but I got the chance to meet him on a few other occasions. And he was just a really, really great community member, had a really, really full heart. And this is him volunteering at our producer party last year at the Stone Church. He just sort of came right in and was like, what can I help with? And he also brought a camera and he took a bunch of pictures of the event for us, which was huge. And he passed away unexpectedly earlier this year. So we have him in our hearts here at BCTV. And even though I only knew him for, about a year or so, year and a half, I do miss him. I miss seeing him around. And another funny thing that I've heard of is during the pandemic, he was just taking videos like of him riding his bike around, all the empty streets and everything, which I find really interesting. But Reggie Martell will be missed. What's new? Let's talk about what's new. I love that picture of Nolan. Yes. That's also at our producer party last year. Captioning, bam, look at it. It's right there. It's in front of your faces if you're here in the room. We've started trailblazing and pioneering with live in-room captions. That was one thing that we have been experimenting with, and then we hope to continue growing and building out in the next year or so. Basically, the town of Brattleboro has been asking us about potentially providing the service for at least a year or two now, or a year or two prior to us actually launching this. In addition to that, some ADA regulations changed last year, and they implemented some new rules saying that all municipalities who are broadcasting their meetings live are going to have to start providing captioning, like live captioning that you can access like on the cable or wherever your stream can be accessed by 2027. That's for municipalities under populations of 50,000, I believe is the number. They have to provide it by 2027. And so we saw that. We saw the town of Brattleboro's desire for this service, and we decided to go for it. So we purchased this system called the Media Scribe, which is just like a box about yay big that you can see sort of in that photo, but right behind Van. It's got the white grill in the front. And we just run our video signal, our program video signal through that box. And then we have the option to customize it with branding and with different languages and different font size and things like that. And then to output it to a multitude of destinations, including a screen in the room like you're seeing here, or like you might see at a Brattleboro Select Board meeting, We can also send it like as an embedded part of the video to go out over cable and whatnot. We actually haven't hooked that part up yet, which is like, I don't know, kind of silly. Like that's the part that we really, I think, need to hook up. Currently, as it stands, there's no live captioning on the cable broadcast, but we're getting there. I think our main thing right now is that we would need to run an SDI cable from up here down to our server room downstairs. So at the same time, Cablecast, who's the company who makes the Media Scribe, or Tightrope, I guess is technically their name, they've been telling us that they're implementing an RSS feature. If it's not RSS, it's some other file transfer protocol. FTP? I said the acronym. They're implementing an FTP protocol soon so that we would be able to transport these captions to our server downstairs without a cable. We're kind of holding on for that, but I'm starting to, I don't know. We'll get there eventually. All right, Garrett. We'll run the cable, yeah. I do want to shout out United Way of Windham County, though, because sort of at the time we were looking to purchase this system, we were also trying to figure out how we were going to pay for it. And one way was to charge the town of Brattleboro to do that, to help us out with that. But then I happened to just strike up some conversations with Ruben Garza over at United Way of Windham County and talked about this project. And he said that it could be a really great candidate for one of their grants that they give out. They give out a handful of grants every quarter, I think. And so I applied for it and we received it. And we hope to do that again to supplement the costs of the Media Scribe because we think it's a really important and valuable service to the community. With the power of the Media Scribe, we could also bring it out other places in the community and transcribe other meetings and events live if that's something that is desired by, like, say, a production client or a town whenever we're out filming somewhere. We could also run programs through it and generate a transcript that way. If someone wanted their show, one of our producers wanted their show transcribed or something of the sort, or screened live, if someone wanted to have a screening and then transcribed in real time, we could just sort of use this in a multitude of ways. But so far, the town of Brattleboro and the select board has been really happy with the service, and we are just looking forward to continuing to provide the service and to hopefully expand what we can do with it. And again, we were like sort of a beta tester of this thing too. So we kind of wanted to stay ahead of the curve to some degree. What else are we providing? Well, guess what? Live audio services. If anyone knows who I am, I'm like a music audio nut. So I'm like, trying to cover a full breadth of what needs to be done and how to serve the community here at BCTV. But like audio is definitely my expertise. And I saw audio is sort of like a shortfall in terms of the things that BCTV can provide. Whether that means we do something for you or whether that means we give you the materials and the empowerment and you do it yourself. So Noel and I built this audio system that we're calling the LiveMOS, or Live Mobile Audio System. That's what it stands for. And that's what you see on the photo on the left there. It's just, we bought like a travel rack and we, put in 4 wireless mics. We put in, a universal power supply and a battery backup. We have like some shelving for extra cables and adapters and mic clips and batteries. We have rechargeable lithium ion batteries and battery chargers as well for our wireless mics. And we have a big old 16 analog input channel mixer right in the bottom there that we can sort of pull out and put right on the top. So we use this, the first time we used this, I think, was for a representative town meeting in Brattleboro last year. And we've been using it on a handful of occasions since. On the right image here is a music event that the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center put on. That was sort of our first gig using this audio system without any video attached, rather than being like, all right, we're going to go out and you're going to hire us to film your thing. This was, we're going to go out and we're going to provide audio amplification for your event. And it went really, really well, and it was a great time. Everything sounded great in the room. We got a lot of positive feedback. And now we're also we're adding this as a membership benefit, and I'll get to that later, actually, is the benefits of being a BCTV member. They're growing, I'll tell you that. But just also to say that the performer here was Roger Clark Miller of the band Mission of Burma, who, if you're a punk head, you'll know that name. And it was pretty cool to get the chance to do that with him. What else is coming? Well, we don't have this quite yet, but we're in this fiscal year, we're planning to, and I'm getting a little, in the future here. But in this fiscal year, we're planning to purchase the LiveView Solo Pro, which is going to give us the opportunity to broadcast remotely from more or less anywhere, as long as we're not in like a concrete box with no windows or doors, then we're going to be able to broadcast from basically any location. And we're going to be using this, I guess, 1, for fun, 2, if members have a need to broadcast out in the community where there might not be internet or Wi-Fi connection. And 3, we want to use this in light of like emergency situations. Say a bridge goes out, and we want to be there to sort of report on it, be a sort of local news entity, so to speak. I say local news entity, but really just show things as they are. Then we'll have this device to be able to do that. And I'll talk a little bit more later about how this might be used in collaboration with community radio as well. So let me go over our programming metrics just a little bit. And I have a terrible angle on the screen. Overall, our local programming time, aka just the sheer amount of minutes that we aired of local programming, increased by about 10.6%, which is really good. Though I think the number of programs like decreased slightly, which means that people are submitting longer programs to us, I suppose. Imported programming time decreased by 10.2%. So those numbers about even out. Imported programming is programming that we receive from outside sources. That's one of the benefits of being a BCTV member, is that you're able to sponsor an outside program. If someone, say in Greenfield, Mass, produces a program and wants to air it on BCTV, they need to find a local sponsor who's a BCTV member for that to air on BCTV. The other thing that we count as imported programming is from the VMX, or the Vermont Media Exchange. So we air programming from all across the state that our sister stations are making. And so that's sort of the definition of imported programming. So we're seeing more local, less non-local programming, at least in terms of hours. And this is, a trend that has been continuing for sure. Our total amount of programming has increased by about 1%, not a whole lot, but still an increase. And it's about 107 days of programming. So you say like, you could play like every program 3 times and, have like fill out your whole year right there, which is pretty remarkable, I would say. This photo on the right is showing sort of a new series of programs we're doing called Cooking for a Cause. And I believe, if I remember right, my next slide alludes to that a little bit more. So this is one of the collaborations we've had that's increased our local programming. It's with a local restaurant, formerly known as Amaru Gourmet. They're going to be the chefs over at the Rail and River now, over at the old Whetstone. But the chefs over there, Lana and Luis, reached out to us last year, and they're new members of ours, and definitely want to give them a shout out. They reached out to us wanting to produce local programming. And at first I was like, what, you want to make a commercial for your restaurant? And they're like, no. We want to do so much more than that. So we started with the Battle of the Chefs, which we hosted at their former restaurant on Canal Street. You can see that on the left side here, that was the Battle of the Chefs. We did it on Valentine's Day. And it was a whole live broadcast. It was a lot of fun. We had them in for interviews in the studio, as you see on the right-hand side there. And they were talking, they're hyping up the Battle of the Chefs. After the events, we did like a debrief and award ceremony kind of thing. They're just really creative individuals. And it's an amazing partnership that we formed. It's less so, it feels very even. It's less like, we're giving them that or they're giving us this. It's like we're really working together on these projects, and it's been a lot of fun. After the Battle of the Chefs came like a AI podcast they made, which was a whole thing. And then after that was Cooking for a Cause, which was similar to the Battle of the Chefs format, but instead they bring in a chef from a nonprofit every episode, and they donate some of the proceeds they make that night to the nonprofit, and they have the guest chef like learn how to cook in the moment. We capture it all on video, and we live broadcast it. It's pretty awesome. Another shout out, and one final thing is that we're starting this new show with them called BCTV by the Fire, where we sort of do fireside chats. And so the first episode of this will be dropping imminently, and I'm interviewing Chef Lana in the episode. So that'll be fun. Another shout out I want to give is to Phil Gattenby, who started working with us this year, providing a lot of awesome local programming to us through Vermont's 100 covered bridges. So his goal is to go around all of Vermont and document, capture, and educate us on what's going on with all of Vermont's 100 covered bridges. Where are they? Is this the original bridge? Has it been moved? Is it accessible? Sometimes you'll even see him driving his Jeep Wrangler through the river. It's awesome. It's a great show. And so he's been coming in. He's very dedicated. He's been coming in very regularly and using our resources to make this really cool show. He started working over at Okemo Valley TV, was a Brattleboro TV or Brattleboro resident, and so ever since this past February or so, he's been coming our way and making shows with us, and we're really grateful to have you, Phil. So let's talk about our facilities use a little bit. Overall, our camera kit usage decreased a little bit, 7.5%. I don't really know what to attribute that to necessarily, but I think it was the inverse last year. Last year, it increased a lot. So it's sort of evening out. It's just odd years, whatever. However, I do want to flag that our edit station usage increased a lot by 34.5% this year, which is just unprecedented in terms of the increase. Last year, we did add 2 new edit stations upon the gracious donation of 2 iMacs from a former board member. And so we have 5 edit stations. I think we're about to have 6 edit stations. There are some days where there's no one in there, but there are some days where all 5 are being used all at once, which is really incredible. And so we're looking forward to just continuing to have people come in, use our resources, and for us to be there as sort of educators and helping hands whenever needed. We've also downloaded other software on the computers, like Logic Pro for audio production. We've downloaded DaVinci Resolve, which I think might have already been on the computers. CapCut as well, which is a program that some folks like to use to make TikToks and social media videos and things like that. So we're trying to keep up on the times, and we're seeing the use for sure. And finally, our studio usage also is increasing just a little bit. It really jumped last year, and it's still increasing a bit. So we're excited that studio use is increasing. And part of that is also we're doing more staff-produced shows in the studio, as well, in addition to more member-produced shows, too. So we hope to see that number continuing to climb because we love it when people use our facilities. That is why we're here. I also got to shout out Teresa Maggio, just like Garrett did earlier, who is probably the reason why our edit station use jumped that high, because she's been working on this documentary called Bill's Lumber. She worked on it for, I want to say, about 1.5 years or so, and she finished it this past winter. And she did it all at BCTV, using our equipment, our cameras, using our edit facilities, using our staff's knowledge whenever she ran into bumps along the road. And then she used our computers to also burn and print DVDs. We taught her how to do all of it, and she just hit the ground running. She just did it all herself. And then guess what? She sold out 2 screenings at the Williamsville Hall to start. She sold out screenings at another library in the area. She had a big crowd at the Dutton Gym, Wyndham Town Meeting House, the Dover Cinemas, the Latches Theater. It was packed at the Latches Theater when we went there. And I had the chance to attend some of the screenings and just talk a little bit about what BCTV is. How did Teresa get here? And so we're just really, really, really grateful. If you haven't seen Bill's Lumber, it is a really heartwarming, touching piece about sort of a dying era in Vermont, I guess. And it's available. Is it up online yet? I think we put it up online. She was waiting a bit to go through screenings. I do think it's up online now, but someone in the control room can correct me if I'm wrong. And that's the example. This is the first screening that she had at the Williamsville Hall. I was up there in the booth taking this photo, but those are the 2 main subjects of the film, Everett and Alan Bills in the front, and they're just so funny. Their back and forth is just you could listen to them tell stories all day. It's amazing. So we have a lot of regular producers, and they continue to grow, and we'd love to see that. I mentioned Amara Gourmet. Maria Dominguez is continuing to produce a lot in the community, and she has, there's no sign of her slowing down. She would be here tonight, but she's filming something at the library. Of course she is. Yeah, she's just always doing her thing. We talked about Phil's show. George Harvey continues to produce Energy Week. He's just so down with the schedule, and he has recruited our board member, Nancy Wolf, to be a co-host with him as well, which has brought a lot of awesome life to the show. We have church services that Mary Lindquist is one of our church service producers. Ken and Laura Lockie, Ken's here. They're producing Inside Local Music. They also will volunteer to produce shows from time to time as well, which is awesome and much appreciated. It's great to have folks that when someone in the community is like, we really want this covered, we don't have the money to pay you to do it. We don't have bandwidth to have one of our people learn how to do it. Then we just ask someone like Maria, or we ask someone like Ken, or someone else who's part of our community, and they'll just do it. It's quite awesome. We're grateful for Toby Moore and his BUHS TV submissions, to Daryl for Sunflowers Court. Al New helps out with the show Here We Are, but he also does his own Southern Vermont live music in St. Mike's Catholic Church. Wendy O'Connell, who produces our talk show Here We Are. Deb Patchouli, who is part of the Trinity Lutheran Church. Olga Peters, who does Montpelier Happy Hour, which is a talk show with legislators and government officials. Chris Ratter, who does the Reformer Newsbreak, and Seth Thomas, who produces the podcast Town Matters and a lot of stuff for the town of Brattleboro, who is here tonight as well. Those are just some of our producers. There's way more, but these are sort of like everyone who hit about 10 or more, approximately. Let's talk about staff-produced programming compared to sort of what our volunteers and our members are making. Staff produced about 21.3% of our local programming this year, compared to 15.4% last year, which is more. We're producing more. I don't think we're seeing less programming from our members. I think we're just seeing more programming from our staff because we love making stuff together. It's just as simple as that. And so one thing that we started making was Beyond the Ballot, which was sort of like direct-to-camera interviews with political candidates. BCTV Open Stage, which is where we bring musicians into the studio here. Bump the mic. We bring musicians into the studio and record them playing a set. And sometimes I'll do really wacky graphics depending on the band. The Gallery Walk, Lit Fest. We're recording shows over at Midnight's Bar now. Other like candidate events. We do Montpelier Connection with Representative Mike Mrowicki. The Rock River Players will hire us to go out there and to film their productions. Root Social Justice Center will hire us to do things. They actually are joining as members, and they're coming in here this week to record some new stuff. Vermontitude, which is a podcast hosted by Peter Fish Case. Voices Live, which is in collaboration with Vermont Independent Media. Vermont Humanities will often hire us to cover things. And we recover so many boards. And there's more than that. That's just a snippet. So we also like to engage youth because they're the future. I mean, I don't need to tell you that. Here's what we do for that BCTV video camp. This summer, was our highest enrolled video camp in something like 6 years. Definitely before COVID, since 2018 or 19 or so. I think we had 14 to 16. It was one of those campers here this summer, and they were awesome. We have Insight Photography come here as part of their video camp. They come here for a day, and they used the green screen just a couple months ago to film their movie that they had scripted out and written and everything. We also send our video camp to Insight Photography to do a sort of guest lesson to show them what else is in your community that could help provide sort of an outlet for your creativity. We have BUHS TV, of course. They submit programs to us regularly. I had the chance to go in there recently, which is cool to see their studio. I was kind of helping troubleshoot some tech, but I really want to get their class back in this room at some point too. We started building a relationship with Academy School last year, and that continued this year, and they've recorded their Nebula News program here about once a year. It's awesome to see the kids come in and just rotate around positions. Some of them are running camera, some of them are on switcher, some of them are hosts, and they all do a little bit of everything. It's awesome. We visit career fairs, namely the Keene State College Career Fair, which you see Van and I here in the top left image. And we're also, like I mentioned earlier, we have interns. And we hope to continue all of these things and to perhaps do more as well, depending on what comes across our plate. We also won a lot of awards during this fiscal year, a lot of awards. We brought home 6 awards from the national conference, the Alliance for Community Media's Hometown Media Awards. We went to a conference in Boston this past June, and we took home more awards than any other center there, any other station. And I don't know how many stations are represented there, and there are even stations not there who submit to the award ceremony. And we brought home 6 awards, which was more than anyone, and that includes the Overall Excellence Award for our budget category. And we're about right in the middle of that budget category, so there are stations with less and more resources than us vying for that same award. We also submitted a bunch of our producers' programs for them to win. Really, we can't take credit for a lot of the awards. It's stuff that our community is producing. Like Vermont Suitcase Company's trailer for their film New Clothes, the Women Freedom Center's podcast commemorating their 50th anniversary, which is something that we produced in-house. Retreat Farms Farm Fest, which is also something we produced with Austin Rice. Meet the Brattleboro Police Department, Officer Deanna Lopez won as well, which Seth Thomas in the police department produced. Seth also brought home an award for September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, which was produced in collaboration with the Brooks Memorial Library. We also attended a sort of a regional conference as well back in December of last year, and that was in Mystic, Connecticut. And we took home one award for the film that was produced by Austin Rice and Angus Reid called Little Balzac 2. And that won Best Arts in Theater. And boy, is it art. You can see a still on the bottom from the movie. It's on YouTube. It's free on YouTube. Little Balzac 2. It's a fun time. It's a wild ride. So we're happy to be receiving these awards and to give them to our producers so that we can give them the recognition that they really deserve. They put in so much hard work and effort into these videos, and sometimes you post a video online and there it goes flying off into the wind. But we want to give them the recognition that they sure deserve. Let's talk a little bit about income now. I'm going to take a sip of water and you can really let that image soak in. So we're seeing cable revenue decrease, and I think that's no surprise to anyone. If you're unfamiliar with how our income is really structured, cable companies who operate in this region, aka Comcast, is required by FCC rule and also the Vermont Department of Public Service to give us money based on the amount of people who subscribe to cable TV at home, and that's the rule. That's the provision. You subscribe to TV. 5% of that goes to us, or 5.5% technically goes to us. And as people drop cable, we're seeing less money come in. So what are we doing? We're trying to make up for that in other ways. I guess one way that we were sort of, we had sort of a pillow this year was from an IRS refund. During COVID, they were charging for, I believe, like payroll fees and taxes and whatnot, and then they sort of went back on that later, and they said, well, if you retained your employees during COVID and you didn't fire anyone and you were still paying everything you needed to pay, we're going to reimburse all of that to you. And so we applied for this reimbursement back in like 2023 before I came on board, and we just saw that money come in this year, and that was like to the tune of $74K, which is not a small number. So that definitely helped sort of break the fall of our drop in cable revenue this year for sure. Like I mentioned, event sponsorships rose, donations rose. I mean, Teresa, again, brought home a bunch of donations to us along with other members of the community. Even besides Teresa's donations, we hit a record of donations, at least in the last 3 years. And if you don't count like bequests or whatever, we're on an uptick with donations, which is really great. We also got $30,000 from the Vermont State Legislature, and this is becoming a larger and larger part of my job, is being involved with advocacy for community media on the state level. I serve on the board for the Vermont Access Network, which is the statewide 501c6 that all the public access centers in Vermont fall under. And a big part of my job has become going to the State House, dressing up like that, and serving ice cream to legislators. That's Ian Goodnow. He's one of our legislators, if you're unaware. And he was like, I'm only going to take the ice cream if you take a picture with me. But I'm not always serving ice cream and in a silly hat. Hey, Nolan. So sometimes I am actually in normal clothes at the State House talking with legislators about what it is we do and what our financial ask is this year and why they should support us. Because there are so many reasons that they should support the work that we do. And so while it was $30K this past year, we're asking for more this year. And the Secretary of State is very, very behind us, and they love the work that we do. And so we're expecting to receive more this year. And I won't say how much because it's never a given. I don't want to jinx it. Also, our select board and production fees continue to increase as well. So we have annual contracts with our member towns, and we also charge school boards and other select boards that are not in our cable area per meeting for covering events. We also are hired by local organizations, local people, and local businesses to cover events in the community to make PSAs. If all goes well, hopefully we're making a full-length documentary this year with another local nonprofit, and I'm working on fundraising for that right now. Very excited. But we're continuing to see this sort of production services as our staff grows. This, income grows as well, and it's really an exciting thing for us to be doing for the community, I think. So there's a sort of a picture of what the cable revenue is looking like. And we're sort of in an interesting position where while we were seeing increases during like 2020 to 2023, that is not the case across the state. So we're kind of just catching up with the rest of the state, where our cable revenue is starting to really decline and is really showing. This fire has been under the rest of the state for more years now. The reason why ours went up was because you see that Southern Vermont cable line starts to decline until it's nothing. Comcast bought Southern Vermont Cable, and the provisions of the contract changed with their territory, so we started receiving more money from those former Southern Vermont Cable subscribers, and now people are dropping cable. And so here we are in 2025, but we are doing just fine without it. So let's talk about our expenses as well. I mean, increase in wages, I mentioned the fact that we're producing more in the community. We're out there more in the community, showing our face and filming things. And devoting staff time to different productions. So that's just an increase. And you know what? That also translates to our employee benefit costs as well. Not to mention, health insurance, dental vision, all that is not cheap. And in fact is increasing at an alarming rate. And that's honestly where a lot of our increase in expenses is being attributed to. Other than that, a lot of different line items stayed sort of close to their budgeted amount or close to their amount that they were last year as well. You can sort of see more detail of that in the annual report that is available out in the hall here. Whoops, went ahead too fast. What does that say? Yeah, just next year we're going to keep a close eye on expenses as, this gap starts to shrink between our income and our expenses. And again, we're working on producing, being hired more in the community to produce things. We're also working more on soliciting donations, soliciting grants, and soliciting support for our productions as well. So there's that gap I'm talking about that is shrinking, our expenses and our income. Really, it didn't, everything rose a little bit from last year, but still that gap is starting to close in a little bit, and you'll see that if you look at the net assets on the annual report. So we're keeping a close eye on that. Also, just to say that we've started investing some of our can't think of the word, but money that's been in the bank for a while, reserves. But you saying something just made me think of it. We started investing some of our reserves in CDs and through a managed portfolio with a local and local community investment firm as well. So we're looking to just sort of build up that in case we need it when this gap inevitably, hopefully not inevitably, keeps shrinking. So I talked a little bit about the legislative update on the state already and the work that I'm doing with the Vermont Access Network to get state dollars into BCTV's hands. Last year, the big update there was that rather than us going to the state and saying, we want money one time and then we'll come back next year, last year the state started giving it to us as a base item in their budget, a baseline item in their budget. So that means we're in there by default. We're in their budget every year by default. And the only ask we have to do is to increase that amount. And we're collecting data statewide to see how much the cable revenue is being lost from every station. And we're asking for more money based on how much cable revenue is being lost to make up for that number. So we're very hopeful that this is going to continue to supplement those losses. And the state is very supportive of us largely. So we are optimistic about that. And I talked a little bit earlier about collaborations with community radio. This is all sort of in the works and nothing's certain right now, but we want to work on a bill. Rather than our money coming out of the state general fund, we want to work on a bill that will support community media through some sort of tax structure or otherwise. And we want to work on that with some of our organizations in the state, like community radio stations, perhaps local nonprofit journalism organizations, perhaps organizations like Vermont Public. One collaboration that we're doing with community radio right now is that community radio came in the legislature last year, and they also asked for money, sort of following Van's footsteps in that Van Vermont Access Network. And they managed to score, I think, $150K or $105K from the state legislature to build out infrastructure to respond to emergencies. And so I'm on the board for our local community radio station, WVEWLP, and I saw that opportunity as a way for us to collaborate. So now that WVEW is building out infrastructure to support emergencies, BCTV is going to do things like buy that Live View Solo Pro, which will allow us to go out into the community and film, things, emergencies, disasters as they're happening, provided everyone is safe and able to do that. And we're going to use our shared networks to broadcast that information out. And I think the state will see this as a really positive partnership between like-minded organizations, and that will further our case for them to support us. And on the federal side of things don't look good. Though there's no current direct threat to us, they have not overturned the Cable Act or sort of done anything to that yet. That is sort of, the Cable Act is like the thing that, sets up this funding stream from cable companies. But, they're slashing cable regulations and other regulations left and right on the FCC level. So we will see where that goes. For now, we're good. I mentioned the ADA guidelines earlier. That's another federal update where we're starting to build out captioning. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Helena, who might have already left. She went down to DC this past year to advocate for us during the Alliance for Community Media's Hill Day, where all the public access stations who can make it across the country go to DC and meet with their legislators and make some noise on behalf of community media. And that's her with our representative for Congress, Becca Ballant. She got to see Becca, which is really cool. But we're really grateful to have her go down there and to really advocate for us. And that down on the bottom is the Vermont Access Network's representation at that annual conference this past June. And as a statewide organization, we won the highest award that they give, which is the Koenig Stoney Award for Humanistic Communication. And that's a result of all the work we've done as a state to bring about these state dollars into our community media centers, along with other things that have happened over the last decade. But that's sort of the big one, is they see Vermont as being a prime example for what other community media centers should be doing across the country. So what's coming next besides that live view I talked about? Well, we have some restructuring member benefits. Really, we're adding things. A couple things are sort of podcast distribution. We have a new podcast that I'm doing with two of our legislators, and we wear bowling shirts. That's the bit. It's a bit. And so this is a podcast that we're recording, and we are now offering this to our members. If you record a podcast, we can distribute that podcast to all the major platforms you might listen to a podcast on. Another thing that we're providing is audio services, like I said. In addition to BCTV staff running the audio equipment, we're also training our members how to do it, and we've had a member regularly take it out for live music shows at his shop, which has been really awesome. We also, this isn't in here, but we're also we have this audio cleaning software. It's like an AI denoising software thing. Actually works really, really well. We're offering that as a membership benefit now as well, if people have, garbled audio or noisy audio that they want to clean up. And then again, the collaboration with community radio as it relates to emergencies. That's something I really hope to see build out. One additional thing about the community radio collaboration, just like this week, I've been talking on our staff side and on WVEW's board to figure out how we can really support each other more with in-kind support, like shared underwriting and shared programming. So we're going to hopefully have some more back and forth there with our local community radio station. So I'm going to wrap up now, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for sticking around. I feel like I repeat myself a lot, but that's 90% of my job anyway. Coming up is our producer party and our awards, and guess what? We're going to do a telethon this year too, because this is BCTV's 50th year in existence, which is super, super cool. And I don't know how lucky I am to come right into this organization right when that's happening. But, as every year, we're doing our big producer party at the Stone Church. It's going to be November 14th at 6 p.m. That's our big party day. Put it in your calendars. I see George has got his calendar out right now. That's right. And because it's our 50th year, we also want to do some sort of a telethon where we're going to be broadcasting live all day from this location and probably also from the Stone Church, maybe out in the field as well if we have our Live View Solo Pro. And we want our members to be a part of it. So if you're here in this room right now, if you're listening or watching the broadcast or the recorded version, if you want to contribute a live segment, like a live show, or if you want to contribute a pre-recorded segment to our telethon, we're going to be getting into the motions of really planning this thing big time right after this meeting ends. So please get in touch with one of us if you're interested in contributing a live segment or a pre-recorded segment to our telethon that we're going to be doing. And it'll run sort of right up to the producer party. Then boom, the producer party starts and we live broadcast through that whole thing as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're just very stoked to do it. It's going to be a lot of work. Thank you for being here. Brattleboro Community Television. And I think I want to, I'm going to pass it back off to Garrett here for sort of member business, member comments, and to go over sort of the board elections as well.
And also to approve the minutes of last year's meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you didn't do that, did you, Garrett? It's okay. I didn't tell you to do it. But I think it was, I also didn't put it in the run of show, so you're off the hook for this one.
So we're starting with any member comments? Are there any member comments? Anyone?
If anyone has a comment, please step up to the mic.
Okay. Oh, George.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate it. I just wanted to make one small correction to what Johnny said. He said, we can't take credit for the awards won by our producers. And it's true that perhaps the staff cannot take all the credit for the awards won by our producers, but BCTV is a membership organization, and those producers are, by and large, members of the organization, part of the organization, and so BCTV does, in fact, rightfully take credit for the many awards won by our wonderful producers.
Let the record show. So now we will approve the minutes from last year's meeting that we're doing.
So moved.
So, okay, is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. What else do I have to do? I didn't realize I had to. Okay, but that was done online, so do we have the results of that?
You can announce the results, and then when we transition to the board meeting, the board can elect the slate of candidates.
Do you have the result?
They're on the paper in front of on the music stand there. Page 2.
Okay. Alex Hacker and Renee Wolver won. Then they're on the board. So congratulations. So now we will adjourn the annual meeting. Yeah, is there, I move to adjourn the annual meeting.
Second.
Second. All approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's adjourned. Thank you for coming.